Hey, it's John here with Pathfinder's Performance. Want to talk to you, make a video, talk to you a little bit about the Leili /CNN 8,000 watt bike I got here. Also, I'm supporting my Lightspeed bike shirt, my custom battery builder. Thank you, Chris. All right, so talking about this bike. I've had this bike for about 1 year now. I've been riding in all sorts of conditions. It is a true to life max speed with 225 pounds of me on there, a 62 mile an hour bike on flats with a full battery. I've gotten 42 miles of range. Still had some battery left with just not aggressive riding, but not taking it easy either in the hills where I'm at. So far, 1 year into it, this is one of my favorite bikes because of the power and because of the range it has. I can go explore for hours at a time, and I can get down roads doing 55 miles an hour and not get run over. That's the favorite thing about this bike in particular. I want to go over some of the kind of specifics of the positives and whatnot. I'll just share those guys with you and be honest with you. I'm thinking about starting to bring these in, selling them. In the meantime, if you want to get one, you can hit me up and we can set up where I have it drop ship it to you, just to kind of cut myself out of the middle, so I can get some actual inventory in. All right, so let's talk about this bike. A couple things about the bike that are super basic. It comes with your standard TFT display for the Leili controller. This is the Leili controller option. 150 amps to the motor peak, 100 battery amps coming out. So at average, it's about 7,000 to 8,000 watts with that kind of power rating. Typical TFT display. Something I did notice after about a year's worth of use. See, it says 89.1. It's actually 79.1 when I put a meter on here to test it. I don't know why it's reading 10 volts higher. So just with that in mind, it hasn't affected performance, operation, anything like that. Just makes it a little unnerving at times, not knowing where my battery is at 100% with a quick glance. Got the control system, got a little bit odd, but turn on down here to turn on your lighting system. Turn on your headlight here. But you have to have that side button on to do that. It also makes for your tail light and blinker system. So it actually works an active brake light. As you can see though, so my cat's in the background, it's operational, but if I turn this off here, no lights in the back. It does still work as a tail light for brakes though. You can see that well enough. So that's a pretty neat feature. I also got the alarm system on this one, so you can actually turn it on. Here, give you a quick test. Has it where you can lock it and you try to operate it, the thing starts bucking around acting crazy. It would completely distract you. Typical handlebars, not real rise. You can see they leave the neck with a lot of spacers, so you can cut it if you like, add to it, rearrange the height of the handlebars, but it's no lift, no real lift on the handlebars. I find it's all right for me. I'm 6 foot tall. Added this high-powered bell so I can warn people I'm coming. Crazy thing is, bell doesn't work unless you do. All right, so I also got these mirrors. Not super impressed with the mirrors, but they work, they're functional. All right, so let's talk about the frame. This is a steel framed bike, but you would think this is all solid. These are all just plastic covers. You can see this one's peeling up a little bit. Plastic cover here. It's still just like a dual rod frame going down there. It's pretty sturdy. Like, I do a little bit off-road on this bike, but not too much. Anyway, so it comes down here. You got the rear swing arm and the linkage. This is adjustable depending on the height you want. I'm actually going to put an improved Fox shock on there, which will fit into that top hole. If you want to lift it up, you can lower this down. It's actually not a bad setup. That D&M shock, not so bad. I went with a motorcycle seat. I don't like the way it tilts up, so I put some spacers in here to kind of angle it flat, more flat, just more comfortable to ride for me. But it does kind of orient the light down. And if you do hit a big jump or hit something hard, I have bottoms where this piece catches the rear wheel and it folds it in. That's why it's kind of oriented in. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to remount that. When you have the seat on there, the seat stem will come down And I've learned this in the first 2 hours of owning this. With the regular bicycle seat, if you have it lowered and you go too far, I actually broke the knob off of it. So you have to actually cut your seat post to fit on the bike once you get on there. Comes with some Chinese typical dual sport tires. So far, they have actually been pretty decent. You see, I've not cleaned them in a while. I've been happy with them. They do a good enough job on the road, and they're decent enough off-road. All right, so the motor, this is the beast. They will advertise it at times, or people have, a 1200 watt system. This bike can easily, or this motor can easily be run at 1200 watts, or 12,000 watts, excuse me. But this particular system is only 8,000. So it's got plenty of torque. I'll talk about some of the stuff when I take it on a quick ride. Motor's quick. It's actually a big, heavy motor. Problem with that too is you have a lot of unsprung weight and rotating mass. It is not because of the weight of this motor, which is something like 40 pounds. It is not the best off-road, but as a kind of light trails, dual sport type bike, I'm loving it. It's been great for me. I've got other bikes I ride off-road. A couple things I don't like. The braking system on here, it's got a Tektro Dorado caliper, which is actually not bad considering, but on the rear they stuck a 160 rotor. It stops. It's actually way better than I expected. But for a bike that weighs this much, is probably pushing 150 pounds, I'd want a bigger rotor. I went to go replace it. Super easy, right? Have to run these cables all the way through the body into the battery so I can get the rotor over the cable and run all the way down. So I have to basically unwire the whole bike. But if anybody's interested or wants that, I can have them upgrade that. I also put a pedal kit on here. I took the actual pedals off. I'm gonna be honest with you, the pedals on this bike with a single speed is just about useless. You can get going maybe 3-4 miles an hour. Bike weighs a ton. It's not the best thing. If you want pedals on there and a seat so it can look like a bicycle for legality reasons, okay. And yes, you can actually pedal, but I prefer this myself. So the front end, you can either get a Leili fork. I got the D&M Volcanoes, 35 millimeter. They're actually pretty good, considering they're heavy duty. You got your preload, rebound adjustment down here, compression, I believe, is on the bottom. But they've been a decent fork for me. Not the world's best or anything, but considering, they haven't been bad at all. Again, I've bottomed these out. I've gotten close to it going off jumps. It's not really supposed to do that. The one feature I do like is you can set this up with this piece here, an adapter, and I have adapters to run, and you have to get a new wheel, but you can actually run dual disc front. I got information on how to get all that done. So before I went that route, I was going to go that route, I actually just put a bigger rotor on there, an adapter, the appropriate adapter for it, and braking power on the front's pretty darn good. So all in all, a couple things I don't like is the rotor, or the rear rotor. You know, calling it a 12,000 watt bike when it's actually about 8,000, I think it's a little bit of a marketing gimmick. Headlights adequate for the cost. For mainly a street bike that can do light trails, this is a really good deal. I think this is one of my favorite bikes to ride. So let me show you what this is all about. All right, Leili CNN 8,000 watt bike. Here's, I'm going to show you the alarm system real quick. Little key fob, hit it, turns it on. Somebody tries to jack the bike by turning it on and riding off on there. Does that. Obviously, super obnoxious alarm. Gives you an error 30, but then if I try to do anything with it, the bike starts spazzing. It's actually doing this itself. It's rocking back and forth. So try to move it again. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny, but would prevent somebody from stealing your bike. So unlock it there. Yeah, that's actually a neat feature. It's like 150, 200 bucks to add on. Mirrors are add-on too. They're fairly cheap. This has the Leili 8,000 watt controller on there. It's just a generic unprogrammable controller. It does the job, but it doesn't have any sort of regen. It doesn't have, it's not controllable. You just have your 5 different power levels. And it's, even when you have the pedals on there, it's not a pedal assist thing. So, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I don't usually use it anything more than 3 to 4 unless I have to get on a highway or a main road and run pretty quick. The thing I don't like about this particular controller or other similar controllers to this is they have a safety feature built in. So the first up to 12 to 13 miles an hour is really tame on this thing. It does 2 things. It prevents the motor from getting like almost like a dead short with sending a bunch of current to it to get it going. And it's also because people are just irresponsible at times. So it's a safety measure thing. Don't really like it. I like low end torque, and I know this motor with the right controller would actually, from a dead stop, flip you over onto your back with the amount of torque it can produce. But that being said, it still works. So I'm gonna do a quick ride around so you guys can kind of see it. We're gonna go start off in power setting 3. Now with these power settings, it gives it more power, but it also limits your top speed. So I forget what 3 is at. It's usually good enough around town riding and just back road riding. We'll go up to 5, and you can hit 60 plus when you start running out of battery voltage range. So as we go here, as you can kind of see, it'll bring the wheel up a little bit, even do it on 5. But it's not this mind-blowing torque. The speedometer at 62 miles an hour, I think this read 1 mile an hour high compared to the GPS. It's actually read 63 on here. So it's actually fairly accurate. But yeah, as we cruise around, you'll see that, like, you can hear it winding up, and up to about 13 miles an hour is where this is where the acceleration gets fun. You see it just starts pulling and pulling. Yeah, dirt road, that was 42 miles an hour and a pretty quick pace. Considering it's not bad at all. Like I said, I've had it up to over 60 on pavement. Now the slow start, 12, 13 miles an hour, don't be fooled, it's still producing torque, it's just not ramping up very fast. I've had it slide out on me on really slippery surfaces. I underestimated it because I got used to the kind of slow filling. So when I say light trail ride, I'm going to show you an example of kind of what that looks like. Oh, another thing too is, it's just like a bicycle. This is your front brake on the left. This is your rear on the right, which is good. You can see that kind of broke a knuckle off. Still not really there if you look at it, but I had a splint on earlier. This is the first time I've really gotten to ride in a while, so I have to keep the fingers taped together because it's not quite healed up. That's also why I'm not riding around like a spaz. It actually hurts to grip this thing right now. Something I do like about this is I have a couple Sur-rons, a couple other types of electric bikes. I have quite a number, not bragging, but they say these things are silent. These things are fairly quiet. They're not like a gas bike. You can hear me talking as I'm riding, right? But this thing's quieter. It's a lot quieter than my other bikes with that big rear hub on there. one major concern I have about it is if you live in a really, really mountainous area, the way with that little safety feature up to 12 miles an hour, hill climbing, I don't know how this thing would do. And I haven't had it on any major hill climbs, but like, it gets up it, but I know if you're a dirt biker, it takes a little bit of getting used to. If you're a bicyclist, yeah, you know, you can keep the pedals on, you pedal it there and everything, it just keeps it controllable. Like, I'd prefer it not be that way, but again, around town, cruising roads like this here, it's completely workable. It's not a real issue. And you'll be hard pressed unless you go up to like a way better controller system like an ASI to get around that, which sometime in the future, like I've been intending to modify this thing forever, for a year really, but like every time I go to do it, I just am like so satisfied with its actual performance that I don't feel the need to. So I'm just gonna upgrade controllers. Too much work, it runs fine. The only thing I have really done is just the front brake. Otherwise, it is completely stock. Other than not adjusting the shocks, but airing up the shocks for my weight. Okay, so this hill, as you can see, there's a little bit of an incline there. Just want to demonstrate like what this will do. Like, doesn't have a problem getting up it, accelerating up it, but I have other bikes that would be spinning the rear tire out from underneath it, flying up that hill. It just doesn't give me 100% confidence in the initial torque. Like I said, I did take readings on there. It is getting 150 phase amps on launch and for the lower RPMs, which is fairly robust. It's no slouch, but you don't really get to enjoy the size of this motor and the 8,000 watts kicking. You don't get to really enjoy that until over 12 to 13 miles, feeling how torquey and how fun this thing actually is. I do know I did probably a 25-mile ride the other day, just goofing off in the hills, different speeds, up hills, down hills. I do know, like, even when the battery gets low, that I can still hit flat ground about 50 miles an hour, 50, 55. You might get better mileage with a lighter body weight than me, but so I mean, even with the battery voltage, it says 70, 86 was actually probably closer to 76, 74 volts. So about half full battery. The other thing about this battery is you'll see other manufacturers of these bikes, they'll get you a 40 amp, 72 volt, 40 amp hour battery. This one actually has a 45 amp hour battery. And the BMS is good for 150 amps for a few seconds, apparently. Again, this one just pulls a little bit over 100 battery amps with this particular controller. But all in all, for like a starting introduction to big powered bikes and the ability to upgrade on this thing, I can't complain. Like I said, I've got two Sur-rons that are pushing. One's pushing about 18 kW on there, and the other one I keep around 10 to 12 kW just because it's geared so low. I ride this thing just as often as I ride those bikes. There's your turn signal mechanism. Doesn't reset to the middle, so sometimes I'll just have the turn signal on without realizing it. So all in all, with this machine, what I got was the 8,000 watt bike with the Leili controller, add on these mirrors, add on the turn signal and brake system, add on the alarm system. I'd recommend, depending on your usage, stock bike, just get it without any of that nonsense, unless you want the light system for around town. I think that's a $200, $150, $200 upcharge. Mirrors, I don't know, you just buy something off Amazon, or you can order them. It's not a bad price, but if you want something nicer, a little more practical. The alarm system, again, up to you. I think it'll work as a deterrent, keep somebody from stealing your bike. Absolutely, that's probably another 200 bucks on there. But for a base price bike of about 4,000, and that includes shipping charges, $500 to your door. Like, only bike I like better than this right now is my Sur-ron, but this is a pretty sweet deal. We talked about earlier this kind of slow start on the system. I want to give you an example. Like, this isn't super muddy right here. It looks like it, but it's really not bad. That slow start system can be deceptive. It's coming through here. Like, I slid all the way through there, and like you could see where I like just going back and forth, spun out. But just want to give you guys an example of, I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, that was like with nothing on there. So it's got a deceptive amount of torque for that slow start thing. It just starts slow. So again, not super keen on that function, but it does what it's supposed to, and it works. So all right, so there it is, Leili CNN / Pathfinders. That's me. 8,000 watt bike. All in all, a lot of fun. It's loads of fun. I can't say enough good things about it. It does have some opportunities for improvement, which I'm working on. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the summary. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Thank you.